I assume you've downloaded an uncompressed zip file with the WSPs in some well-known folder. Now open a PowerShell console window. There are three solutions to be installed: a column definition, an event handler, and the support for configuration. We've provided a text file with all the commands you need to execute in order to provision and install all the three solutions needed for TRAMAT to run. I highly recommend that you update the folder name in the text file to the one you've used to make the installation as straightforward as possible. What we will do is just cut and paste each line and execute it in the PowerShell console window. The column definition and event handler are both farm level installations, and the settings support is a site collection level. As you see, it's a matter of adding each solution through the command line and then installing it. For the last solution, since it's a site collection feature, you should write down the URL to the site you want to use for it. Once we've installed the three files, we can check if they are shown in the SharePoint Configuration Manager. So we go check the farm solutions and see that all of them are shown. Here are the three of them: settings, columns, and translation event. So we can now dismiss the PowerShell console and the management site and close the installation text file. Let's go now to the site where we want to use TRAMAT and make sure we are in the settings page. We'll have a look at the items TRAMAT has added to the SharePoint site. We have a new column type in the column section under the group TRAMAT, which contains the translation options, automatic and manual. We go back to settings, and we will go now to content types. Filter by group TRAMAT, and see we have a TRAMAT publish page, which inherits from article page. This is the page type all translatable content will be based upon. Back into site settings, we can now look at the features in the site. The TRAMAT feature is shown in the list and needs to be activated. That makes the feature available to all the content sites within the site collection. It will be available in the main site and all of its variants. So let's go into each variant site and enable TRAMAT features so we can automate translations. We need to activate the column that holds the translation mode and the configuration pages, which we will see in a moment. When we go back to the site collection administration, we can see now the TRAMAT settings collection with two links. We'll check that it's also shown in the rest of the variants. We'll go into configuration. It has to be done only once. Beginning with the general settings, we see all the languages listed except for the main language, in this case English. For each variant, we can choose the translation provider, a localized page footer to warn the user that the translation was automatic, and the option to automatically publish the page as soon as it's translated without further supervision. By default, that's disabled. We also need a consumer key to use the service. The key will be provided by us, or you can use a trial key included in the installation zip file. As you can see, it's at the bottom of the installation file you've downloaded. Just copy and paste the code into the corresponding form field. You can leave the service URI as is, since it's the public service of TRAMAT and it's not likely to change. The last option is a bit more technical. It allows for custom connection configuration in the SharePoint configuration files, leaving it in basic HTTP is the wisest. We now have provided all the necessary information to be able to use TRAMAT. Coming back to site settings, we'll now configure the content type fields we will translate within the replicated variant pages. This page shows a list of content type fields that will be translated by TRAMAT. Each field must go in a new line, and the name must be the internal name used by SharePoint for the column. We see here the most usual fields, title and publishing content, plus a custom field we've defined. We'll remove that one and go through the process of adding a custom column type step by step. We choose the custom column definition. The best way to get the correct field name to use is by going into the URL of its edit page and looking for the query string parameter named field. We must copy the value that goes between the equal sign after the field word and until the ampersand that delimits the beginning of the next parameter. So we can now go to column settings page and pass that name into the list. Now, whenever the page has to be treated by TRAMAT, those are the fields that will get translated. We will now give it a try and see if it all gets correctly translated. Instead of waiting for the variant replication mechanism to jump in, we'll just assume that part works well and go into translation. Our main site is in English, so we'll be translating some content into Spanish. Let's imagine this test page was replicated. If we check its properties, we see that translation event was set to manual instead of automatic. That's because the page had already been treated. We want to make TRAMAT run this translation once we check in the page back, so we'll set it to automatic again. We configure the title, some text in the summary, which is our custom column, and some content in Spanish, in English, that will be translated into Spanish. We give a few styling into the text, so we see how TRAMAT respects that. Plus, we'll insert an image from our SharePoint library. Well, this is ready. We save it. And now, well, you see it's in Spanish, text in English. Once we check in the page, the process of translation jumps in. Since the mechanism is set to automatic, it will contact the TRAMAT service with the provided credentials to get the translation back. We refresh the page and it's almost immediate. We see that we have a footer added at the bottom of the translated page. That footer is exactly what we had configured in the settings part for the Spanish language. Thank you.